Welcome, everyone. My name is Meredith Zacharitz, and I'm the Director of Product Management here at Journyx. Today's training session will focus on reporting for all the types of data that you track in your Journyx system. From employee time and expenses to compliance, resource forecasting, and financial reporting, we will cover a wide variety of reporting options available in Journyx. Journyx offers two primary tools for creating and running reports: Journyx Standard Reports that are run directly in the browser, and Journyx Reportlink for pivot reporting in Excel. While the browser-based reports are fairly quick and easy to create, Reportlink gives you access to more fields and options to customize your report templates using Excel pivot table tools. We'll take a look at both reporting tools, as well as the specific report types and options for customizing your reports. In addition to this training session, we also offer separate training classes for both the full list of report types for the Journyx Standard Reports and Journyx Reportlink capabilities as a whole. When we're finished with the training session, we will cover any questions you may have. You can use the GoToMeeting panel to submit your questions in the questions area, or you can raise your hand at the end of the presentation to ask your question directly. Start today with Journyx Reportlink. We'll look at the added flexibility that Reportlink provides for analyzing your Journyx data over the standard reports that you get in the browser. Reportlink is an optional reporting engine that allows you to pull your Journyx data into Excel pivot tables and create pivot reports. You can access the installer and report templates under the same reports menu that we used for our standard reports training. However, once you've installed the Reportlink app, you will create and run all of your reports directly in Excel. Like the standard reports, there are data feeds that are similar to the report types that will determine what fields are available for each report. You also have the option to run all of your standard reports with the filters and fields displayed as Reportlink pivot reports, provided that you have Journyx version 8.9. If you don't have version 8.9, if you have an earlier version, you can still use Reportlink. You just won't be able to run your standard reports in Reportlink. So let's go ahead and move over to Excel to look at the options that are provided. Now, when you install Reportlink on your computer, it's installed as an Excel add-on and appears in the Excel ribbon along with your other menu options. You must have a 32-bit version of Excel 2010 or later in order to use Reportlink, and that's because Reportlink requires the XLSX file format, which was not available in earlier versions of Excel. Now, when creating reports in Reportlink, you'll be creating templates that can be refreshed to show data for different periods and possibly even different amounts of data depending upon who's running the report. So you can put several related reports in a single Excel worksheet. One item to note is that the report date range that you enter right here it applies to all of the reports in a worksheet. So if you need to run two reports for two different date ranges, each of those reports will need to be in a separate Excel file or worksheet. Now, I mentioned that the report data gets loaded into your template can vary based on who is running the report. So the first piece of information that determines what the data will be available for a report is your site location or URL. And the site URL allows you to access the real-time data in your Journyx site. The second piece of information that determines what data you can see is your personal login to the Journyx system. This login ensures that all Journyx security and data accessibility is applied to the person who's running the report. So as an admin, you might create a report template for user time where you can see all the users in the system. However, managers will only see the users in their Journyx groups when they refresh that report template that you send to them. Likewise, if there are custom fields that are not available to all roles for reporting, pay rates, for example, are a common field that's not available for everybody to see, those roles will not be able to view that custom field data in Reportlink. We also have an About Reportlink area that gives you access to all of the documentation, including the Reportlink user manual and any other types of information you may need to ask questions or seek help. So when I'm ready to start building a report template, I can click on the New button. and I get a list of feeds and reports that are available to me. Now, the feeds include a set list of fields that are loaded into the pivot table for the date range that you select. You can see the complete list of fields associated with each feed in the Reportlink user manual. So they're in some cases, they're quite extensive. So you can refer to the user manual for what is included in each feed. Now, unlike the feeds, you are able to limit the fields that are loaded into a pivot table if you use one of your standard reports. It looks like I may have lost a little connectivity here. Give me just a moment. Yeah. All right. There we go. Looks like our virtual machine went down for half a second. So as I was saying, I'll just talk through this for now. Running your standard reports in Reportlink allows you to limit the number of fields that come through on the reports. So when you for example, are running a report for a large time frame or that includes a lot of actual hours, using a standard report to limit the number of fields that'll be loaded into the pivot table will help with performance and the amount of time it takes to run that report. So I'd like to show you how to create a basic feed-based pivot table if this virtual machine will let us back on. There we go. Very, very slowly. And we're just going to start with a basic time feed. You can see that I have my data set to pull 2 weeks. There we go. And we'll go for a pivot table. Now, as we wait for the data to load, part of what we're going to take a look at is how many fields are included in the time feed. There are currently over 100 fields associated with each time entry in your system, and you have access to all of those fields in this report. I'll go back to full screen. There we go. So as I scroll down our fields, you can see that we have quite a few to choose from. So that's one of the reasons why running a standard report might be preferable, so that you don't have to wait for all of that data to load into your pivot table. So let's just do a basic user employee hours, weekly hours report here. We simply find the fields that we'd like to put the employees in our rows, and then we'll put our hours in the summary field. And that allows us to see a basic users by time report. We can edit these fields For example, we might want to make this particular number formatted to have 2 decimals. There we go. And we can simply do that here. And we might also want to summarize this by week, since we have 2 weeks of data. And we can do that by pulling the date field in here to a column and then selecting that field. And we can group by that field. And so that allows us, we'll switch from months to days and make it 7 days for the week. And this will allow me to see my employee hours week by week for this 2-week report. So now let's go ahead and save this file so that we can do some other things. And it looks like the VM came back up moving just a little bit slow, so bear with me. And what this will allow us to do then is go ahead and we can do something like make this a template that we want to distribute. And so I can clear the data using this clear data button, and then I can distribute this report to others, to managers, and instead of seeing a full list of users as we saw here as an administrator, they will see just the users that they are available, that they are able to see based on their Journyx groups. Now, in addition to pivot tables, you also have the option to load your data in spreadsheet format. We'll take a look at that. So we'll do the time again, but this time we'll pick worksheet as our format and create it. Now, when using this worksheet format, it's important to note that you should not make any changes to the sheet where your data is actually loaded because the changes will be removed every time you refresh your report. So if you want to add calculations to the sheet data, you need to link to that data from another sheet and make your changes there. One of the reasons customers use the worksheet format is to use it as source data for creating manual or custom pivot tables where they might also be pulling data from other spreadsheets or other systems. So we'll let this load. And so you can see it's just a basic worksheet format. It's all the same data that we had in our time pivot, but we can just see it in a grid format. Now, if you don't need all the field data included with the time feed, or you already have a standard report set up in your Journyx system that has all the source data you need, then you can just run one of your standard reports in Reportlink. And again, this is under our New button. And every report out of the Journyx system that's a standard report will begin with the word standard, and then you can simply look for your report name. Now I'm going to do my all monthly time by project report that I have set up in the Journyx system. Now you'll notice that I call it by name as a monthly report. However, my date range in this particular worksheet is a 2-week period. So it's important to note that the Reportlink date range will override anything that you have set up in the Journyx system for your standard reports. So I'm actually going to get 2 weeks of data for this particular report. And each time I hit refresh or create a new feed, it is updating all 3 of the reports that I have set up in this particular worksheet. And this is always the case, that it updates the entire worksheet each time, checks for new data, checks for new date ranges, and so on. Now, as you can see in my standard report, there are far fewer fields to choose from. So it's a more manageable list, and it doesn't take nearly as long to load those. So we'll do something similar here, but this time we'll do time by project. And we'll do our hours. And then maybe this time we'll break out our project time by its billable status. So we can do that right here. And then with a little bit of design help, we can make this report look a little bit easier to read. And so we can see for each project how much time is billable and how much time is non-billable. So that pretty well covers our two formats, the pivot versus sheet. And then we also looked at the Reportlink feed versus a standard report. Now, in addition to the feeds and standard reports, you can also run your Journyx system reports in Reportlink. And these are the list type reports that you can see under your reports menu in your Journyx system. And they show you, your list of users, your list of projects. So they're basically your system configuration. And you can run these in Reportlink as well, should you have the need. They can be very helpful. For example, if you want to if you want to export your data, make changes, and then import those changes, running your system reports in Reportlink is a great way to do that. So let's move along to another worksheet where we can look at some of the other feeds and field data available. This first sheet here has the rate feed data linked to the pivot report. The rate feed is specific to rule and policy markup. So you would only see this data for this feed if you were using rate rules to mark up your pay and billing rates. In this example, we did add a calculated field here to the pivot table that shows the profit for each project based on subtracting our project cost from what's been billed. And I'll show the calculated field. You can add your calculated field. Let's see. Well, I lost my menu. There we go. Changed on me. Right here, calculated field. And these calculated fields will remain, even if you clear the data or change the date range, they will remain and they will be updated based on the data in the system. And they will be appear in your field list over here so that you can move them into the pivot table where you need them. Now, if you do not use rate rules, you can get this same information, the project cost and the project billable, from the time feed. And then what you do is set up calculations that multiply your user or project pay and bill rates by the hours logged for the period. Now, we could also add an expense feed to this worksheet if direct expenses are part of project costs. And so we could get a total project cost by adding in an expense feed. In this example, I also inserted a time feed. So we have a rate feed and a time feed. And this is just to display that it's fine to include more than one data set in a single worksheet. You could even have two different pivot reports, both based on the same feed. So it's as many feeds and pivot reports as you like, all in one worksheet so that you can pull the related data together. So let's move on to a few more examples of text-based pivot reports. These two I'm about to show are specific to Journyx PX. And so what we're looking at is forecasting resource availability and then comparing actual assignment work to what was estimated. So we can see here that Journyx PX tracks the scheduled work and the actual hours, and then we added a calculation field, in this case, for our variance so that we could see how well we were staying on track. Now we can also apply that to financials. And it's very similar. We have our scheduled and actual work, then we have our scheduled and actual cost, and we can look again at our work variance and our cost variance, these being the calculated fields that we added to a basic budget report. Now, it's also possible to create graphical reports based on the pivot or sheet data. And this example here shows a chart that was inserted pivot chart that was inserted next to the pivot table that came from Journyx. And you see that you can expand and see more detail on your chart. And similar to the pivot table tools, you have your pivot chart tools. And it's fairly easy to insert pivot charts right here. So that is also an option. They don't have to be on the same screen, so we don't have to have our pivot report and our chart on the same screen, and we can see by this example here if it will respond. Oh, heck. I think we just lost the VM again. This is not my day. Well, if I were able to show you this, it would show you another chart that's resource availability for each individual. It shows how many hours they're scheduled, how many they've actually worked in variance. And the pivot chart itself is on another sheet. And so it's pulled in as the source. Let's see if we can get on here one more time. So those pivot charts can be inserted anywhere in the worksheet. They can be with the pivot report. They can be separate from the pivot report. And if I can get my VM back up one more time, I'll show you a dashboard where essentially what we've done is we've created 7 or 8 sheets with various feeds and pivot reports, including time, compliance data, financials, utilization, and what we've done is put a dashboard at the front of the file that summarizes all of that information in a series of pivot charts. So we'll give it one more go. And while we wait for this, I'll just go over some of the other information. The Reportlink user manual provides details on what feed to use for the kind of data that you need to report on. And Journyx can also provide you with the report templates, a variety of report templates like the ones that we've showed you today. For more details on the reporting specific to Journyx PX, we have a recording of a previous training session focused on PX reporting. So it goes over the PX feeds in detail. We also have a previous Reportlink training session that we can send to you if you'd like to know more about how to use the pivot tables and some of the Excel tools. So let's go ahead and take a look at this last dashboard. And hopefully we won't need this silly virtual machine again. So we have a dashboard of pivot charts right here. Let's switch to the... That shows us a variety of information quickly on, like I said, utilization, compliance, time broken out by specifics and financials. And all of those are based on pivot reports on the other sheet. So it's pulling all of this information together into one dashboard. And this is something that you could distribute to others, and those others would only see what applied to them, just like all the other reports that we looked at today. So I think we'll not try the VM any longer. That concludes the training portion of our session. We'll go ahead and open up the floor for questions. I would like to let everyone know that Journyx is running a special promotion for Reportlink right now. If you'd like to know more about this promotion, please contact your account representative. So let's open up the floor for questions.